Raw sewage is being poured into UK rivers by water companies for a record amount of time, new data has shown. It comes as water company bosses receive increased bonuses while customer bills rise. So, what's being done to tackle the issue, as it appears profit is being put before the environment? Hello and welcome to Roundtable. I'm Enda Brady. Now, as rowers for England's famous Oxford and Cambridge boat race prepare to compete, attention is being drawn once more to the state of the River Thames. Last year, rowers were warned not to swallow any water or go into the river, with high levels of E. coli bacteria detected. Five-time Olympic rowing champion Sir Steve Redgrave has called it a catastrophe, which needs urgent action to stop pollution for profit by water companies. So, how polluted are UK rivers and what's being done to clean them up?
It is the iconic river running through London, but the water quality of the River Thames is at a concerning level, with an increase of the amount of sewage being dumped. This part of the river, close to the historic St. Paul's Cathedral, has one of the largest sewage outfalls in all of central London. In other parts of this river, people were rowing, swimming, and doing other water sports. However, this is causing health concerns. In 2024, raw sewage was discharged into England's waterways for 3.61 million hours. During normal operations, all sewage goes to treatment plants. Under certain conditions, water companies are allowed to spill sewage into waterways due to heavy or prolonged rain. But illegal dry spills happen when sewage goes directly into the water stream without any rainfall. This month, UK consumers are seeing their water bills rise by an average of 26%. Water companies say they will support investments in improving water infrastructure, but it will take time.
It's a major public issue and a major public health threat, and that's been recognised by the government. But also you need to properly invest over periods of time to upgrade your infrastructure to cope with the pressures on it.
Until changes are made, waterways such as the River Thames remain a safety concern.
I would never, ever swim in this river. Just look how dirty it is. It's well known for a lot of the bacteria.
The thing is, it's been like this for years across the United Kingdom. It's a problem not just in the Thames but also locally where I'm from in Essex.
I would never swim in the water here. I'd never let my children swim in the water here. I don't think it's safe.
Will UK waters be cleaned up and be safe for the future, or will plans for improvement be washed away?
Well, let's meet our guests on this one. Here with me in the studio, we have Sasha Woods. She is Director of Science and Policy, that's at Earthwatch Europe. And Erica Popplewell, she is Campaign Manager at River Action. Joining us from Bristol in the west of England is Jagannath Biswakarma. He is Senior Research Associate, that's at the School of Earth Sciences. Also in Bristol, we have Simon Jackson. He's Founder and Chief Scientific Officer, that's at Molendotech. You're all very welcome to this roundtable. Erica, to you first of all, I was absolutely shocked by the comments made by Steve Redgrave saying that when he coaches young rowers nowadays, he urges them to cover up any cuts, abrasions, bruises, don't swallow the water. Any way water can get into your system, stop it. I mean, it's a pretty sad state of affairs.
Yeah, and we would echo that as sensible advice, that there's been guidance put out from British Rowing and with River Action, where I work, on how to row in polluted water, because it is now so common. There are no clean waters in England. 15% of rivers in the UK pass good ecological standard. The rest don't. So there is risk from all sorts of potential risks, including raw sewage, which we know is being put into our rivers. So if raw sewage, which contains E. coli, is even very dilute in the water, if it goes into your bloodstream or into your digestive system, it can make you very sick.
Sasha, for the benefits of our international audience, spell out who is at fault here for England's waterways being in such a terrible, terrible state.
Yeah, so we know that our rivers and freshwater systems are subject to lots of forms of pollution, definitely sewage discharges, as Erica touched on, but also agricultural runoff and, of course, urban runoff and tyre particulate matter. So they're stressed out from lots of different sources of pollution.
But this is primarily water companies that are at fault here, yeah?
Water companies certainly play a role in this, but I don't think we can completely disregard the agricultural runoff and the urban runoff as well.
Jagannath, to you, just give us your sense of how bad the water systems are in England off the back of these pollutants going into them so often.
Surface water quality issue is a global issue, and UK is no different. As our panelists mentioned, only 2 river bodies out of 10 is qualified as a safe water body in the UK. So it means almost 8 of river bodies that we have is not safe. Compared to the EU, for example, in Netherlands, 5.6% would qualify for as an ecologically safe water body. If we compare to the global south, we have India, for example, the largest river, Brahmaputra. It is also discharged with a lot of pollutants, and pollutants will include a lot of agricultural runoffs, phosphate, nitrate, dissolved organic carbon, microplastics, and as well as industrial waste. So it is a severe challenge globally, but in the UK, because we are highly dependent on surface water, it is a challenge which we should really come together to mitigate.
Simon, your company works to find solutions to solve the issue. Just give us your sense of how big the problem is then.
Yeah, the problem is very large. And as some of the other panelists said, it's a multifactorial effect. Not only is it sort of wastewater, treated or untreated, but a lot of agricultural runoff and runoff from other areas is causing the problems with the water. And of course, we're much more aware of it now. We've been doing more testing. So that's one of the reasons. There's almost a perception that the water is getting worse and worse, because I think we're looking at it much more. But it is, as been pointed out, it's certainly a European and a global issue as well. What we're interested in doing, what my company's keen to do, is to provide the tools that we can monitor the water quality easily and accurately. Currently, water quality is tested at best weekly during the bathing season, and from only particular points. We know from our work that water quality changes quite considerably at different points along a river or along a beach and throughout the day. So what we need is rapid tests that can give you an indication of water quality that can be done at different locations and over different times. The way that microbial water quality, and we've had it mentioned, the E. coli, for example, is one of the what we call the fecal indicator bacteria that's measured, is that a water sample is taken, it's sent off to a lab, and those bacteria have to be grown, they have to be cultured. And that takes usually 24 to 48 hours. So when you use the water, you're using water that's been tested 48 hours previously, and you don't know the water quality when you're actually using it. So we're providing tests that can give you a result within 15 minutes, almost real time, which is, we think, going to be much more useful to have easy to use tests that can monitor the water. And it's through better monitoring of the water quality is the first step in starting to put things right with the quality of the water, knowing what we've got, what the situation is.
Thanks, Simon. Erica, to you, I noticed these water companies, they pay multi-million-pound bonuses to senior executives every year, yet they're constantly whinging about not having enough cash to repair infrastructure, leaky pipes. And yet these men, predominantly men, are walking off with million-pound bonuses. Have you concerns over that?
Indeed we do. The issue here is that an essential public service, we all need water. When you move into an area, you don't decide who your water company is. That service that we have to have is being provided by a private company, and they are prioritising profit over environmental standards and indeed customer service. So that's not an acceptable state of affairs. The government has a really important role in this as the regulator, and so we want to see a better funded regulator with stronger teeth, sharper teeth, that they can use to curb that excess and ensure that the money that water companies are making is put into infrastructure investment. We need to see greater capacity. So we haven't had any new reservoirs built for 30 odd years, which, considering the population is growing, is not acceptable. And so as a result of that, we see greater abstraction in very sensitive areas like chalk streams, which suffer greatly when too much water is taken. And we see increased leaks. Within London, there are thousands and thousands of litres of water just wasted every day through leaks in pipes and poor infrastructure, which is a waste. And then when we see some rain, for example, the system is we have a combined system. So there's the waste that comes out of your house. And then when it rains heavily, the rainwater goes into the same system. There isn't enough capacity in the system because that investment hasn't been made. And so the excess has to go into the river because there isn't anywhere else for it to go. So if there was an investment in infrastructure, then that wouldn't happen as much and our rivers should be cleaner.
Sasha, everyone wants cleaner rivers. How much of a priority is this for the UK government, do you think?
I think it absolutely needs to be a priority. I mean, we have a lot of legislation. I'm not sure that it's always particularly well enforced. And so I do think that we need more resources for our monitoring statutory bodies. At Earthwatch, we'd really like to see the power of citizen science utilised to monitor our freshwater systems. The public can be used to gather data, but also to advocate for the health of their freshwaters.
And Sasha, I notice my own water bill going up every single month, year on year. The parent company, the figures are absolutely shocking. They have debts of £16 billion. I'm guessing you know which water company I'm talking about. How badly run are these companies if they're racking up debts of £16 billion?
There's certainly been a lack of prioritising investment into the infrastructure of our sewage system, and I think we need to be doing more around nature-based solutions and using the environment to our advantage to help clean up and support our freshwater systems.
Jagannath, to you, just give us your impression of where other countries are with their water quality. I mean, is the UK middle of the table, or actually is this reasonably good?
So I was born and brought up in Assam. That's a northeastern part of India, very rich with biodiversity, natural resources, and we have a mighty Brahmaputra. Probably you have heard of Ganges as well in India. So these rivers are highly polluted with industrial waste and sewages, right? And then I migrated to Japan to work there for almost 2.5 years. There I witnessed that they have also issues with surface water, but then they have very stricter water and environmental related policies, which they really tackle very well with strict implementation. So water quality monitoring, assessment and treatment, three of them are very linked approach. So the detection, scientifically detecting a pollutant is not an issue anymore. I think from the detection to go to action is a gap that we need to minimize. If we come back from Japan to Switzerland, where I studied, I noticed that their Ministry of Environment very well take care of their river systems. They have yearly, almost cycle-based monitoring system, which they strictly implement, and then they take care of those contaminants, including microplastics. So they claim that 70% of their river system is under safe ecological status. If we go to the Netherlands that I mentioned earlier, 5.6% they are aiming to achieve by 2027. So UK with 16% safe water bodies is, I would say, doing fairly a good job, but we have to ramp up our strategies to mitigate this because we have solutions. It's the only thing is that we need stricter implementation of regulations. If necessary, we need to improve the policy which tackles this surface water quality monitoring, assessment, and treatment.
Talking of strategy, Simon, if you were to speak to Keir Starmer in the morning, what would you say to him was the priority in terms of cleaning up England's rivers?
Well, I think one of the priorities would be to change the way we monitor water quality, to increase the frequency by which we monitor the water, and also perhaps to broaden what we're actually monitoring. Currently, we're looking at what we call fecal indicators. That's two types of bacteria. One is E. coli, one's called enterococci. but just monitoring those, and we've seen that very often where you monitor water and you get a low result in E. coli, for example, there may be other bacteria, including some pathogens that are present that could pose a problem for public health. So I think we want to increase the scope of how we monitor and measure what's in the water, and certainly increase the frequency. I believe the government have got a consultation period at the moment where they're looking exactly at that problem, and we've been working with water companies as well as with community groups, including friends of the rivers that we've been working with, and providing them, as I say, with these tests that they can start doing this on a more frequent basis, and it gives them a bigger picture, a broader picture of what might be in the water.
Erica, to you, I looked at a figure, this shocked me, 3.6 million hours of discharges of untreated sewage into England's riverways in the year 2023. That was double what it was 2 years previously. How are they getting away with this?
It's a very good question. I think it's because we're not seeing the right punishments available. And if punishment doesn't fit the crime and you're making money from your savings by not investing properly, then the businesses are going to continue to do that they do. We're asking for Thames Water, for example, who is Europe's biggest water company. They give water to all of London. They're not fit for purpose to our minds. So we're asking that they be put into special administration, which is a part run by the government, who would be able to stop the excess pay, redirect the money to where it should be, and clear up, invest in infrastructure so that we don't see that level of leakage and sewage anymore.
But these bosses are getting a green light, aren't they? I mean, when these bonuses are dropping hundreds of thousands of pounds, millions in some cases, what's the incentive for them to change?
So the government have recently passed the Water Special Measures Act, which was a piece of legislation which is aimed at curtailing bonuses. So we're pleased to see that, but as ever, the proof's in the pudding. There's often ways that people can work around. You can stop bonuses, but instead give out big share payments. So I would look carefully at the entire remuneration package that senior figures within water companies are getting, because there's often all sorts of bonuses that appear in different guises. It would be better to mandate infrastructure improvements in that way, so that you'd be forcing positive steps rather than necessarily trying to work it around that.
Sasha, give us your prediction for the next couple of years then. Can you see England's waterways coming back? I mean, can they be saved?
I genuinely think that they can. I think it's going to take collective action. It's going to take action from government, from water companies. It's going to take supporting farmers move to a more sustainable type of agriculture, farming with nature rather than against it. That's not to put blame on the farmers. That's the onus is on government to support farmers in that. It's going to take action from national highways to work out how to stop urban runoff entering our rivers directly. And the combined actions of citizens really getting involved, monitoring their waterways more frequently, and advocating for their fresh waters.
And just tell me, Erica, you've worked a lot with Steve Redgrave on this campaign. So, legendary rower, 5 gold medals at 5 consecutive Olympic Games. He's a phenomenal man. Do you find it amazing that the boat race is on and global audience, and yet this is in a river that, hand on heart, you would not allow a child to swim in because you realise that you could end up in hospital later on?
Yeah, indeed. And we've been doing testing for the last month on the course of the boat race, which is happening this Sunday. And we've unfortunately found, despite the fact it hasn't rained, it's rained once in the last 30 days. So most of the problems with sewage occurs when it rains because, as I said, that overflows the system. There hasn't been any rain, and yet still, over a quarter of the time, the water was not reaching the threshold that the Environment Agency set to be safe for swimming. That is outrageous, because what is the excuse? Why is that river water still being full of dangerous contaminants? And I think it's actually worse than we imagined, because that implies if there's not been storm overflows, which is what causes big risk, then it's what they call treated effluent that's been going into the river. Treated effluent is perfectly legally allowed to be put in by water companies. But actually, if that's not tertiary treated, which is an extra layer of treatment which takes out often uses UV light, for example, and kills some of those contaminants. That's not mandated. So there's stretches of water, such as where the boat race happens, or indeed Henley-on-Thames, which is where the very famous Henley Regatta is every year, that you get rowing crews from all around the world, the most famous rowing event. That stretch of water also doesn't have tertiary treatment. So again, we did testing there, and we found that the rowers were again rowing in water that was full of contaminants and potentially very dangerous.
Yeah, I live right beside that, actually, and I would not swim in that river for any amount of money. Jagannath, just give me your impression. You've worked and studied in Japan, Switzerland. Which countries do you think are leading the way in terms of water quality? I'm guessing here, but maybe Northern Europe, Sweden, Norway, Finland?
Yeah, so first of all, clean water should not be a luxury. It is our fundamental right. So banning from swimming should not be a solution. What we have to do is to protect and improve the quality of water. And talking internationally, when I was in Japan, I learned that they are doing almost 90 to 98% of monitoring thoroughly, regularly, and it means they go in a year multiple times. And why is it important? Monitoring, as Simon also mentioned, it's important because of climate change, environmental changes, demographic changes, the water quality do not remain same throughout the year. So I would highly encourage, if we can ramp up our monitoring system, it would really benefit us to come up with proper solutions to treat water, especially for the UK. So in Switzerland, I studied at ETH Zurich, and I also work at EWAG, which is a world-leading aquatic research institute. There I learned that water is just not a technical issue. It is a challenge that we all have to combat together in terms of behavioral changes, in terms of social aspects, in terms of economy of it, and it also, again, science. So it's a multifactorial approach that we need to perform to mitigate the water quality issue that we are currently seeing. As you mentioned, Norwegian region, the Nordic European countries are leading here. Yes. No. For example, I bring Netherlands because I know that they have flooding issue as well, that as we see in the UK or in India, but they have somehow combined their policy in a way that they have integrated treatment facility for their sewage and the flooding situation. So somehow we can learn from each other. Like, it's not necessarily that UK has to come up with their own initiatives, but it can also learn from community engagements that are occurring in India, for example, and India, vice versa, they can learn from river monitoring systems in UK. So I think the globe is time that they come together to act on a policy which delivers the One Earth mission, and we can protect the water bodies across the globe.
Simon, to you, final point. Do you think we've reached a tipping point with this, that people have simply had enough in England and they want clean rivers back?
Yes, I think wanting clean water, be it rivers or in the seas, is as has been said, it should be a fundamental right. So I don't think, I think people expect that quite rightly. And I think, as I say, what we need to do is get better understanding how the rivers are being polluted, what's in the rivers, what's in the pollution, and how more effectively we can monitor that. And I think that, combined with probably more legislation and more enforcement, will be the way forward.
And Simon, just again to you, I mentioned the bonuses earlier on that these water company executives are getting for failure. Give me your opinion on hearing that these men are walking off with £1 million bonuses every year after pretty much destroying rivers in England.
Well, the water companies also get fined for pollution episodes, and that's why they've come to us, and we've been working with some of the water companies, because if they can rapidly assess the water quality and, for example, can close a beach or indeed reopen a beach quickly, that has an effect. They're unlikely to get fined as much, but also has a beneficial effect on the local economy. Tourism, particularly where we're based down in the southwest, where there are many bathing beaches. Tourism is a huge part of the local economy. And if you close a beach, you're not only fining the water company, but you're also affecting the economy of all those individuals and companies and industries that depend on the tourists that are using that beach. So yes, they are being fined, and we're, as I say, we're helping to try and monitor the water more effectively so that they can avoid being fined and help the local economy in that way.
Thanks, Simon. Erica, just on that point about the fines. So Severn-Trent, let's just have a look at this before we finish. They got fined £2 million for reckless pollution. The same year, they paid £3.36 million in bonuses to just 3 executives. I mean, they're not worried about fines.
No, and Severn-Trent actually have the highest paid chief executive who is a woman. So it doesn't matter who's in charge, the money does still keep getting to these people. So, yeah, the fines clearly aren't working. And the proportion of fines compared to the proportion of profit doesn't make change of behaviour worthwhile for the companies, I agree.
Sasha, final point to you. It's not too late, is it? Please tell me, let's end on an optimistic note. We can start swimming in English rivers. How many years from now?
I would hate to put a timeline on it. I think what's important is that we need to start connecting with our blue spaces again. We need to start prioritising them. And then I think we can have a healthy freshwater future ahead of us.
And obviously campaigns like what you were doing, Erica, with Steve Redgrave, they keep going and you won't stop?
No. We are on a mission to rescue Britain's rivers, and we hope to one day be out of a job, but I'm not sure it's going to be quite round the corner yet.
We wish you the very best of luck. Erica, Sasha, Jagannath and Simon in Bristol as well. Remember, you can see more discussion and debate on our YouTube channel. Just search for Roundtable, TRT World. But for now, from me, Enda Brady, and all the team here, goodbye, and thank you very much for watching.